Elena, it's so great to see you all again. You're welcome to leave your video off. If you'd like to turn it on and engage with us a little bit, we'd appreciate that too. So Google Ads. The good news is you don't need a fortune to make Google Ads work, but you do need to make the right investment. And we're going to go through a lot of the technical details today, talking about budget, looking at different ways to optimize your ads. So I'm Julia Scott. I have run J. Scott Marketing for 10 years, and we've been a partner with the Rhode Island Small Business Development Center for, I think, about 8 of those years. It's been a really amazing partnership, and we love collaborating with Elena and others. All right, so let's dive in and get started. We have about 30 minutes for the presentation, and then we'll have some Q&A at the end. So why budget matters, right? Obviously, you have cash flow issues. We can't just spend thousands of dollars on Google Ads and just hope it works out. We need to be really strategic with our investments. So this webinar is really going to be a practical way to solve this very common problem of how much should I spend on my Google Ads every month or every day? If you overspend, obviously it's really going to drain your ROI and you might just not have extra money to spend. But if you underspend, it's really going to limit how much data you can get from your ads, and that data enables you to make choices to optimize and get better results. So both ends of the extreme don't work. So our goal today is really to help you find the sweet spot for your ad spend. Elena's going to do some polls, and I have a few polls for you as well. So type into the chat, what is your biggest challenge with Google Ads right now? Is it A, I don't know how much to budget, B, I'm afraid of overspending, C, I'm not getting enough results, or D, I just don't fully understand the platform? So I'd love to get a sense of where everybody is with their Google Ads. Okay, some D's, A, another A. Interesting. Lots of, I don't fully understand the program, or I don't know how much to budget. Another D. One C, Elena has C. All right, great. Well, thanks everyone for weighing in. So good to know sort of where we are starting from. So this is what we're going to cover today. And this is like our big picture framework for approaching a Google Ads campaign. So we're going to work through and unpack each step. But we're going to be looking at defining our goals, what our goal is for the Google Ads, and then looking at different metrics we'll pay attention to, our benchmarking cost, and looking at the competition, which can actually be really informative when we're running Google Ads, because Google Ads is an auction system. And so what you're bidding impacts what other people are bidding. It's not a straight purchasing system. We're going to talk about testing. We love testing and optimization, and how you run experiments within a reasonable budget. And then, of course, optimizing and scaling is where everyone wants to get to, because that means your ads are performing well and you're ready to scale and get even better and more results. Okay, so let's start with step one, defining your goals and metrics. So your primary goal might be you want to generate leads. If you're a B2B business, you probably have a sales team, or maybe you are the sales team, but you just want more people to talk to that are interested in your project. Sales, if you're an e-commerce business or a B2C business, you might want to be attracting people who are ready to make a purchase. Other goals could be including phone calls, just reaching a lot of people, generating traffic to a website or landing page, app installs, store visits. So these are all some different options. So you're gonna track either your cost per acquisition, your CPA, that's usually used for lead generation campaigns. So, you spend $10 and you received one lead. So your CPA would be $10. You paid $10 to receive that one lead. So that's your cost per acquisition. Your ROAS, return on ad spend, that's your ROAS. That's usually used for sales campaigns. So when you're actually trying to sell your widgets, right? So maybe you spend $10 on your Google Ads and you sold items that were worth $20. So your ROAS would be 2. Your ad spend was 10, you sold $20, so your return on your ad spend is 2. So you can work backwards from your goal, multiply it by your target customer cost per acquisition, and that would be your budget, or your ROAS, that would be your budget. Is everybody with me so far? We're getting straight into it. Give me a little wave or a chat or something. Okay, I'm getting one yes. Thank you, Stephen, for being so responsive. Okay. Okay, looks like most folks are still with us. And again, Elena said you can re-listen to the recording and go through the slides later. Okay, so another thing that you're probably interested in is, well, what's my cost per click? That's another acronym that you're going to want to know, your cost per click. In Google Ads, let me actually back up. In Google Ads, you don't pay per impressions, which is different from other ad platforms like Meta, which is Facebook or Instagram. In Google Ads, you only pay if someone clicks on your ad. And when you bid, you could be the top bidder is the first result, and the middle bidder is the second result. And if you're the lowest bidder of those top three bids, then you'll be the third result. So, in general, small businesses, local businesses often start with just $10 to $20 per day in Google Ads. But industry wide, your cost per click is going to vary really widely. So, let me actually just, this is way too much information to read to you. So I'm going to paste this into the chat. These are cost per click averages by industry. And you'll notice like, let's see, is legal services in here? Oh gosh, legal services. Okay, attorneys and legal services. That's one of the highest cost per clicks, and those can go much, much higher. So you'll see there's quite a variety of how much you're going to just pay. And this is again just the click, just per paying for the click. So what we recommend is we estimate your daily budget is based on 8 to 10 clicks per day, and that gives you about one conversion a day. Typically, we see about 10% of the clicks convert, which means if 100 people or 10 people click on your ad, one of those people will convert either to a sale or a lead form if you're collecting leads. So for instance, for health and fitness, that's why we bolded that one. We recommend an ad budget would be about $50 per day. So if you take your average cost per click, which is $5, multiply that by 10, that would be your daily budget, $50. And then from that, you would get about one conversion a day. If you have more cash to spend, you would get more conversions per day, and you would be able to evaluate how high quality those leads are and potentially scale more quickly. When you're looking for competition, here's what to look for. So there's a lot of different tools in Google Ads, and actually Keyword Planner is the first bullet point here. So that's where you get information about your cost per click. Keyword Planner is a free tool within Google Ads. So once you set up your Google Ads account, it's going to give you access to a lot of tools. And we have a slide towards the end where we go through some of the tools that we use every day. And most of them are within Google, so you don't have to pay anything for them. Okay, so once you're in your Google Ads, use tools like Auction Insight to see who is appearing more often, who's outranking you, and who's getting more visibility. You can also check what keywords your competitors are bidding on, which means they can see what words you're bidding on. You can also look at what offers and messaging they use, and then how what is the flow of their ads. Okay, they have this ad, then it clicks to this landing page. And from that, you can basically infer some information about their budget, their bidding, and how you can be stronger. Like what kind of creatives do you need to be more competitive than them? Could you build an even better landing page with maybe they're using stock photography? Could you have original photography you could use? Is their messaging like way too long and just bogged down like paragraph after paragraph? Could you be more succinct and pithy with your messaging? You can also use your competitor insights to decide, well, what should my ad spend be? You don't want to waste money or underspend. Um, so think about, all of these factors, your target CPA or ROAS based on what others seem to be achieving. And then again, your creative. So your creative is your visuals and messaging that are part of your ad. So maybe if I say, oh, this creative is really outdated, it's like, yeah, this is a photo from 2000. We need something up to date. Or maybe it's still showing people wearing masks, right? This is totally out of date messaging. We really need something more current. Okay. So that's step two. Then step three is starting with a test budget. So you don't want to start again with a too small budget because you're going to waste time. You do need enough data in order to have it be meaningful enough to analyze. So um, there is a rule of thumb, like I mentioned, your budget should be 10 times your cost per click, and that's at a minimum. So if you do that math and you're like, wow, this feels really uncomfortable, maybe you're not quite ready for Google Ads, or maybe you just need to get over that hump of like, this is what it costs to get these leads, and this is how much the leads are worth to me, and so it's worth it to spend this money. You can set a daily average budget and then multiply that times 30.4 to get your monthly budget, or start with your monthly and divide it to get your daily budget. So there is some nuance here. So on really busy days, like high traffic days, you may actually spend more than your daily budget, because when you set a daily budget, Google basically considers that what's your monthly budget. So if you set a daily budget of $50 times 30, Google will say, okay, the budget for this campaign is actually $1,500 a month. And then its route algorithm uses that budget, the $1,500 a month budget, based on traffic and audience signals. So it might spend higher than $50 a day on some days to capture data and deliver performance, because there's a lot of traffic. So basically, Google is noticing, wow, there's a lot of traffic today. We're going to take advantage of this. So you may see higher daily spending than technically than your daily limit. Okay, step 4. You're really wanting to monitor your ads on an ongoing basis. This is not a set it and forget it. And a lot of clients come to us saying, "Oh, well, like, what do you do after you launch the ads?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, that's where the magic is. That's where we earn, that's where we're making you money, is by optimizing it." And when I say optimizing it, that is logging into the ad accounts and seeing what's going on. So you should really be very intentional about when you scale instead of being impulsive. So we're going to talk through some of the steps, and this is a really nuanced part of Google Ads. And also, I'll just give a little disclosure. So in my role at J Scott Marketing, I set the strategy. I do our, discovery calls. I speak publicly, like here and in other places. I have a team member who does manage the Google Ads day to day. So if somebody has a really detailed question, we can just circle back to you and get that answer to you. So the things you want to track is your click-through rate. That's your CTR, click-through rate. We talked about your cost per acquisition, your CPA, and your ROAS, the return on your ad spend. So those are some of the biggest things you want to track. And you can use Performance Planner. That's within your Google Ads. That's a free Google Ads tool, and it's a forecasting tool that basically uses machine learning to project, like changes coming up to your budget, bidding, campaign settings. So it's going to help you run a more impactful, successful campaign, looking at things like clicks, conversions, and metrics. And it's really going to help you optimize your ad spend. It'll make recommendations for your budget and bid allocation across your campaigns to achieve those advertising goals that you have. Reports. So how people will ask us, how often should we check reports? At the beginning of a campaign, you're probably going to be logging in every day. Once you stabilize a little bit, you could look in, on a weekly or every 2-week basis. That's probably enough. You can set up automated reports. We have a tool that is a live dashboard, so our clients can refresh every hour if they want and get an up-to-date ROI report. And then if the results are stabilized, so you've launched a campaign, you've done some optimization the first few weeks, you've gone through sort of a learning phase, and you feel like, okay, we're happy with the ROAS here, or the CPA. This is a profitable, ad campaign for us. So increase your budget about 20% per week as long as the results continue. You don't want to make huge increases in your budget, because sometimes you might end up just spending twice as much for the same results. So increase just a little bit. And we're also going to talk about some other strategies for what do you do when you have a really well performing ad? So how do you scale that? And then the last bullet point, testing. So assume you have launched your ads and one of them is performing well. It's important to have some budget dedicated for testing. You always want to be continuing to evaluate the ads, test new ideas, maybe have a new product, you want to test different creative. So if your ad budget is $50 a day, we would recommend adding, once your ads have stabilized and you're happy with the performance, we recommend adding on another $25 per day for testing. So maybe you're testing a totally new landing page or a totally new messaging, something like that. Have about 50% of your daily budget in addition dedicated to your testing budget. I just want to pause. Elena, do we have any questions so far that we want to catch up on?
So far, none in the chat, but if people have any right now, please feel free to go ahead and ask. And in the meantime, I am going to add in a poll.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, Leslie put one in. Leslie, if you want to come off mute, feel free.
Okay, so my question was, what is the bidding to begin with? So I get all of these pieces, but backing it up when you're talking about bidding,
Mhm.
what does that mean? And how is that done?
Okay, so great question. Thank you so much for asking, Leslie. So Google Ads is a bid system. So when I say bidding, you're bidding on different keywords and phrases that you want your ad to come up for. So say you're a painter and you do interior exterior painting for residential projects. So you're probably going to bid on some keyword like residential painting near, Providence, Rhode Island. I'm not sure where you're based, Leslie, but
Yeah.
you're going to be bidding on, I want to pay, or I'm willing to pay, up to $50 a day to get people to click on that ad, residential painting near Providence, Rhode Island. So that's what the bid system is. And other people may be bidding too. So the top three bidders, their ad will show up for that specific keyword.
So
Make
I
sense?
have this Apex Media that's out of Florida who's doing the Google stuff for me.
Okay.
Um, so I had to pay to have Google be posting this, and then there's this monthly fee. It's like $200 a month for them to have those words there. They're supposed to be pushing, and I meet with them monthly. I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to be kind of asking them. We talked about the words, the keywords, and things like that,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure. And there's a dashboard. I just have to spend the time to do it because I'm brand new and just trying to sort out what all those things mean. So when you're talking about these clicks and stuff, I don't, how do I know?
Yeah, so there's a learning curve. The good news is that you can Google what does CPA stand for if you forget, and just like
Right.
CPA and Google Ads, you can figure all that out. So for you, you should be looking at your ROAS, your return on your ad spend, or your cost per acquisition, which is how much are you paying to generate a lead. So it depends on whether
So,
your ad campaign is generating leads for you or sales or something else.
okay, it would be leads because it's brand new, but where do I find that? How do I know that?
That should be in your ROI report from your
Okay,
ad team.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, good question. Thank you for asking that. Okay, so let's talk about some guardrails because we're all small business owners, I believe here, and so our budget is really we protect that budget, and you certainly don't want to waste your money with Google Ads, and that's one of the reasons why people sometimes limit their whole marketing program because they're so afraid of wasting money, and who has free time to figure it all out? So you want to think about your max bid cap. So that's a maximum spending limit on either your cost per click or your CPA. So you can set a maximum that you want to pay for any particular keyword or for a conversion. So definitely recommend putting that max bid cap. Um, Negative keywords are words that you don't want to show up for. You're going to exclude these from your campaign. So you oftentimes will start with just keywords you're bidding on, and then you look at the keywords and see what are people actually clicking on, and then that will help you determine what negative keywords are. So another example would be, so going back to our painting company example, I don't know if anybody here runs a painting business, but one of our clients is a painter, so I'm kind of got his company and his ad campaigns in my brain. But so just because someone searches for a painter near me, they could be looking for art lessons, they could be looking for painting supplies, they could be looking for commercial painting, right? So there's a lot of things around painting that we don't want to show up for. So that's what we would mark as a negative keyword. So you're not paying to show up for those negative keywords. Then there's also day parting and GEO targeting. So day parting is a strategy around setting specific days and times that you want your ads to show. So maybe you run a restaurant and you know that people would click on your ad and immediately make a reservation. So maybe you're thinking, okay, well, we close at 9 p.m. So we don't want people maybe after 7 p.m. or 7:30 making a reservation unless it's for a future day. But if it's like make a reservation tonight, then you would basically say, okay, Google, only show our ads on these days or times. So that's probably not the best example because people make reservations in advance, but I hope you got the concept of you can limit which days and times your ads are showing. And you can also look at, well, when are my ads performing the best? Maybe I don't want to run my ads during those lower performing times. And then you can focus more on, peak performing times. Um, and then geotargeting is the practice of limiting your ads to certain geographic areas. So maybe you only want to show your ads in a particular part of Rhode Island. Maybe you want to show your ad to a particular part of New England. Maybe your services are nationwide. You can work with people around the country. So a lot of businesses do have specific geographic ranges. So make sure that your ads aren't showing outside of those ranges. And remember, if somebody comes into your geo target but lives outside of it, they may see your ads while they're in there.
Julia, we had a question in the chat.
Okay.
Should the budget be split between keywords?
Oh, that's a great question. So you set a daily budget, you set your budget per campaign, and then within that campaign, you bid on a whole bunch of keywords. So it's not specific to one keyword, it's more specific to a campaign. Does that answer your question? Let's see who asked that.
Courtney, thank you for asking that question, and just let us know if it.
Okay. And then we talked about reviewing your report. So really you want to review your campaigns on a daily basis when you first launch, and then about 2, 3, 4 weeks when things have stabilized, hopefully you can start looking them more on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. And again, you're going to look at your impressions, your clicks. So impressions is how many people saw the ad. Clicks is how many people clicked the link in the ad. That will generate a click-through rate. What percentage of everyone who saw the ad clicked on it? And then you'll get your conversions and then your cost per acquisition, or your ROAS. So I just want to go into a little bit more detail about what you're going to review to optimize your campaign. So in the first stage of your ads, you're just launching, you want to ensure you're getting impressions and clicks for the right keywords. And that's tied to what your business goals are. So are there any negative keywords you need to set? Are you getting enough impressions? We've launched ad campaigns. We check in a day or two later and like, for some reason, this never started. Google had a hiccup. And so we have to restart the ad. So just make sure your ads are being shown. Then you can tweak the keyword strategy, what you're bidding on, what your negative keywords are. In the second stage, you want to ensure your ads are getting enough clicks. So, okay, the impressions seem to be coming through. Is our click-through rate, you'd ideally want to see a click-through rate of about 10%. If you're seeing above that, fantastic, gold star, high five. If you're seeing below that, there's probably some tweaks you need to make to the ad. So for whatever reason, the message, and we've all seen Google ads, right? There's that top headline that's a little bit bigger in like a blue font, and then the smaller text in gray. Is the messaging not compelling enough? Do you need to make it more clear? Do you need to make it more succinct? Do you need to entice people a little bit more? So you might want to optimize, tweak the ad if your click-through rate is below 10%. Then in the third stage, okay, so you're getting the impressions, you're happy with your click-through rate. Are your clicks converting to leads or conversions, making an actual sale? So that's where you're going to look at your landing page. So when people click on the ad, where are they going? And is that landing page really optimized? Typically, we build a custom landing page for each ad that we launch because unfortunately, I hate to break it to you, your website homepage is almost never optimized specifically for Google Ads. And if you think of it, it makes perfect sense because your homepage is generally a broader look at the business. We do these three things, and we can help you with any one of those three things, whereas the Google Ads are going to be much more specific. We're going to help you with this one thing, and we're going to bid just on the keywords related to this one thing. So again, if somebody clicks on a lead for interior painting and they come to a website, and it's like about commercial painting instead of interior residential painting, they're going to be like, wait, what is this the right place? What am I doing? Do these people even do residential painting? You want it really clear and streamlined so that the landing page matches the ad campaign. So if you're not getting the conversions, that means the landing page needs to be improved and optimized. And then in the fourth stage, so you're getting the impressions, the click-through rate is strong, you're getting conversions. Are you paying what you want to pay? So ensure the conversions are being captured within the limit. So that's where you set your cost per acquisition to achieve your goal. So you can actually tell Google, I don't want to pay more than $50 per acquisition. Maybe your limit's lower, maybe it's higher. Depending on your industry, you might pay more or less. So you can tell Google, this is what I'm optimizing for. I want you to optimize my ads for this cost per acquisition. Okay, I'm just managing the time. We do still have a lot to get through, so I want to keep going. But again, if you have questions, please type them into the chat. Okay, let's talk about scaling. So sometimes if you have a successful ad campaign, doubling your budget actually is a bad strategy, which is not exactly intuitive because you think, oh, it works great. Let's just put more money on it. We hear that all the time. But what can happen is you can actually just end up paying twice as much for the same results. We've seen that happen occasionally in campaigns. So what I want to encourage you to do is once you've got a successful campaign, think about growing gradually. So don't just make that huge increase. Think about increasing your budget by 20% per week when your ad is performing well. You want to make sure your cost per acquisition or your ROAS is stable. So it's not just one day you had a great day, but it's been consistently performing week in, week out. You're like, okay, these ads are a winner consistently over time. We're going to increase the budget. You can shift some budget to the best performers. Again, when you make those slow budget increases. Another strategy that we really love is to actually identify your top performing ads and then think about how can I create like the cousin to this ad? So could I do something that's a different, distinct campaign, but quite similar? Maybe the type of creative is the same. Maybe the messaging or the offer is similar. So by offer, I mean, again, going to that painter example, free color consult when you get, book an estimate with us. So the offer would be to get this free color consultation. So the colors are just perfect in your space. And you're really happy with them instead of going to the paint store and like, oh, this one looks good. I think it'll look great on my walls. Working with a color consult. That would be the offer. So maybe you want to keep the offer consistent, but the messaging you use to explain the offer is a little bit different. You could also experiment with more precise targeting, and then you can use different budgets. So basically, you're making like a cousin to your top performing ad instead of just increasing the budget on your top performing ad. So that's a strategy that we like, and you never know. Maybe that cousin ad is going to perform even better. And then another reason why you're wanting to regularly check in on your Google Ads campaign, even once you've gotten your numbers to where you want them to be, is because the returns can diminish. There's changes in the algorithm. There could be seasonal changes that happens with a lot of businesses in the trades and other areas, construction, for instance. For some reason, the ads just aren't performing as well. So you have to think about, well, is this related to some part of the entire campaign? Or is this just a seasonal thing and this is when we sunset our ads or we switch it to, for instance, awareness? Even though we know people aren't going to be doing exterior painting in the coldest part of winter in Rhode Island, we still want to be aware and talk about, booking now for spring or something like that. Or maybe you just completely sunset your ads for a few weeks or months when maybe your budget, your business is so seasonal, like some restaurants close for 6 weeks in the low tourism season. So maybe you just completely stop your ads then. Okay, so pay attention to diminishing returns. Let's do a little sample scenarios. I think we have enough time, so let's work through the math here. It's kind of a quiz. So your formula again is your goal of how many leads or sales you want to make, and then multiply it by your target cost per acquisition or your ROAS, and that's going to be your budget. So if you're a local business, maybe you're going to spend $20 per day, and your cost per acquisition would be $50. Or if you're an e-commerce business, your monthly budget might be $1,000 and your goal is a ROAS of 4x. So the formula is something like this. So you need 10 leads a month and you're estimating your cost per click is $4. So this is for number one, if you're estimating 5 clicks a day, then $20 per day would be your daily budget. And then your cost per acquisition would be $50. So, I'm sorry, wait, no, $40 would be your cost per acquisition. Sorry about that. I did the math a little wrong. Um, and then your monthly budget to acquire 10 leads, if you want 10 leads, would be $400. So it's 10 times a $40 cost per acquisition. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes and practice doing this formula for your own. And then if anybody wants to share what they came up for their daily or monthly budget, we can share that. So I'll manage the time and let me know if you have any questions. And I see Elena's put another poll in the chat, so you can take that. And it's been about two minutes. So does anybody want to share their result of what they found? Leslie, do you want to talk through the example you put into the chat?
Yeah, so based upon those figures that you had given on average for the different industries, mine is a pet industry because I have the doggy bus. And so it's $4 on average. It was like 387 or something. So figuring at $4 a click on that average of 10 clicks a day needed. That's $40 a day times the 30.4 for the month would be 1,200 for the month.
Awesome. You did it. Yay.
Yay!
Brave and sharing your example. Does anybody else want to share a quick example? All right, why don't we keep going? Thank you for being brave, Leslie, and sharing. So if you are, maybe I should have had this up during the 2 minutes. If you're doubting yourself, stick with us. You can figure this out. There's lots of marketing consultants like me and my team and plenty of others to help you get the best results with the least amount of headaches. It's very common to wear, how many hats do we all wear? If you don't want to deal with the marketing, find an expert marketing partner because it does get pretty nerdy and there's a lot of experience and lessons you learn just by doing it, and it can be expensive to experiment. So let's talk about some common mistakes if you are going the DIY route and other myths. So one myth we hear a lot is, oh, if I just spend more, I'll get more results, more ROI, return on your investment. That's not always true. You have to really have a top performing campaign and then scale strategically in order to increase your ROI with more spend. We talked about having too small of a budget, and so noisy data, meaning you're trying to figure out this data, but it's just sort of noise because there's not enough of it to really interpret the data. So if you're only getting 2 to 3 clicks a day because your budget is on the slimmer side, or because you have a really high cost per click in your industry, it's going to be very difficult to make any judgment on what's performing well and what's performing poorly. And you got to be able to isolate those pieces in order to optimize. If you're ignoring your quality score, so your Google Ads quality score is really important, and it basically it is an indication of how high quality Google thinks your ad is. So when you have a high quality score, it means your costs are going to be lower. You're going to get better ad placement, and so it means overall your performance is going to be better. And this is the way Google rewards relevant and high quality ads and keywords. So it means basically you've done your homework, you're bidding on the right things, your offer is relevant, your keywords that you're bidding on are relevant, and your landing page is performing well. Ultimately, Google wants your ads to be successful too, because then you're going to spend more money with Google. So it does have that quality score, and that's also an indication of like, oh wow, maybe I'm not ready to scale, or maybe I'm not ready to really fully launch these ads because my quality score is kind of low. I need to focus on getting my quality score up. So it is a diagnostic tool, and it can help you identify areas for improvement that is going to make the experience for the person on the other end as they search and try to solve and get this information that they're looking for makes their experience better. And then another mistake we see is people, increase their budget before their ad performance has really stabilized. And so the metrics you want to look at to indicate that your ads have stabilized is really getting enough clicks when your cost per click is somewhat stable and controlled. That you're getting a consistent volume of leads that are relatively high quality, and then your cost per acquisition is relatively stable or controlled. And these are all things that can be really tricky to figure out. We've worked with clients that had running Google ads themselves, and their leads, the quality of their leads was really poor. And so that's something that can be tricky to figure out. All right, quick poll to keep you guys engaged. What mistakes have you made before with Google Ads? I know some of you have not run Google Ads, but you can think of other digital advertising or other ad campaigns that you've spent on. Did you spend too little to get results, or you ignored the tracking setup, which we really haven't talked that much about, but there's a lot of data with Google Ads, and so you want to make sure that all of your tracking tools are set up so that you can look at the data and it's high quality, it's clean data so that you can optimize. Maybe you scale too quickly, or maybe all of the above. Let's see. Is anybody? Okay, so we've got some B's ignoring the tracking setup. That's definitely the least fun part of Google Ads. It's really technical. It doesn't always work, and it can be a little hard to figure out. Okay. Courtney says A, spending too little to get results. It's really common because people are like, well, I don't want to just spend more money. Am I wasting it? But then you waste the money that you do spend by spending too little. Okay, awesome. Um, okay, so Lisa's just learning. That's great. You're in a great place to learn, and I know there's a lot of other resources on the Rhode Island Small Business Development website that Elena can also point you to. So you're in the right place, and thank you for being brave and elevating your marketing. So you might want to take a screenshot or a picture of this slide, folks. And I really want to invite you to use this when you do launch your campaigns or to review your campaigns to kind of self-audit yourself. So do you have you when you start a campaign or you're reviewing a campaign, did you state your goals? Are they accurate with what your business goals are? And are you tracking your CPA or your ROAS? Have you done your research on what your cost per click is going to be? And is this like a reasonable budget for you using those budget formulas? Have you tested your budget? Are you seeing how it's actually performing? Are the CPCs that you think you're going to get, are those actually showing up? Um, and just a little tangent here, you can research your CPC using Google Ads. There's something called your keyword planner, and that will help you find keywords you want to bid on, estimate costs, and you can focus on what's called long tail keywords. That's literally just keywords that have more words in them, as opposed to like painter near me. That would be a very sort of generic keyword, but a long tail keyword would be residential painter with um, good reviews near me, or near Newport, Rhode Island, or something like that. So and then you'll also get information about your quality scores and how you can improve your ads. So um, Let's see, the tracking setup. So do you have Tag Manager in place? Are you actually tracking conversions so that you can see, okay, I spent $500 on my ads this month and I got 10 leads, and this was like how many I actually converted into paying clients. So all of that tracking setup is really important to do at the beginning. And then once it's set up, you should not have to do anything with it again, unless you like launch a new website and then you may have broken some of your tracking systems. That did happen with a client of ours. Um, are you paying attention to your guardrails, right? So we talked about negative keywords, setting a target cost per acquisition. We talked about geo-targeting, limiting the geographic range that your ads are shown on. Are these guardrails active? So you don't want to launch your ads without that, because then your spending could get out of control or just be really ineffective. And then do you have a plan for scaling? Have you thought about, when I reach this ROAS, that's when I'm going to add $100 a month or $1,000 a month? Do you have a plan and benchmark so that you're making decisions based on data instead of based on a gut feeling, which is generally not a strategy we ever recommend. We really want to base our strategy on data, which is one of the reasons why so many business owners love Google Ads, because there is a ton of data. Okay, we have a bunch more slides to get through. So the very title of the presentation was what's enough. So enough budget for Google Ads is really a balance between results, your ROI, and your scalability. So you're getting a good return. That return is staying positive. If you see diminishing returns, that means you might be overspending. And then do you have enough room in your budget to test and optimize? So if your budget is only big enough to have one campaign, maybe it's time to think about, could you find some resources from another part of your budget, or maybe wait until you have a bigger budget so you do have some testing room in there. And then putting into practice, we don't have time for this mini exercise, but again, go through the 4-step process that we started with. Um, and you can sort of map out a campaign plan, so you can understand the setup and what you would be testing. Um, okay, we're gonna keep going just in the interest of time. We just have a couple more slides. We're almost there. Hang in there. You guys are doing great. So people always ask us, well, what tools do you use? These tools
Mhm.
are all free except for Dash This. That's a paid tool. And a lot of them are right within Google Ads. So when you set up your Google Ads account, you're going to have access to your keyword planner, which we mentioned earlier, your performance planner, and your auction insights. We also like Microsoft Clarity to help us give more ideas for how to optimize a landing page and what about a landing page is performing well or not. And then Dash This is our ROI tool, and it's a live website, so it's not like you're waiting for your monthly or even weekly report. It's always live. That is a paid tool though. So might want to take a screenshot of this as well if it's helpful for you. Okay, we're almost done. So you guys are doing great. I know it's a lot to receive all at once. We have a little time for questions in a minute. But it is possible to run Google Ads, and Google will also offer you consults. Just remember, there's kind of a conflict of interest there, because the more people Google can convince to launch ads, the more money they're going to make. So, take your time, don't rush it. Make sure you have your whole campaign set out. Think about being smart with your budget is more important than having a big budget. Um, the just starting is a learning process, and you want to start as lean as possible. What's your minimum viable ad campaign? Learn fast, or some people say fail quickly. Figure out your mistakes really quickly so you don't keep spending on an ad that's not performing, and then be really savvy when you start to scale. Um, so would love to hear if people are going to commit, maybe taste in the chat, just for accountability. Can you commit to taking one step or learning about one aspect of Google Ads, or maybe one task you're going to do to optimize your ads? But would anybody like to share something they're going to commit to related to Google Ads? You can unmute or type it into the chat. In the meantime, we have a comment from Elizabeth Kearns. She said, when I ran ads with Facebook, it seemed like their algorithm showed my page less after I started paying. Like the non-paid days, there was far less interaction than had been before. So I think you're saying that you started ads, but on the days when your ads weren't showing, you had less interaction. I think that's what Elizabeth is saying. So,
Yeah.
um,
far less than before I had started doing ads.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know. I haven't heard that Google does that. I do know that when you run ads with Meta, just by either boosting a post or showing ads, your organic, your non-paid content will get a lift. So it sounds like that algorithm, when you stop the ads, really, really hurt you. And that is Meta's very, very non-subtle way of encouraging you to continue their ads, unfortunately.
Yeah, non-subtle.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, there's a whole section of Google Ads for nonprofits. So nonprofits get, I think it's like $10,000 a year, or they get a one-time grant of $10,000. And that can be a really great asset for nonprofits. We also know that sometimes Google Ads for nonprofits will set click limits. And so your ads are not going to perform well because they don't let you bid high enough to actually be successful. Another nonprofit we've talked to has their ads running through their nonprofit portal and ads running through the main platform, so they don't have any limitations. But that's great that you have somebody in your family that can walk you through your account and give you some insights. Does anybody want to share a next step they're committing to before we move on to questions? One last poll while you think about what you're going to commit to with Google Ads. If you could improve one aspect of your Google Ads, what would it be? Are you A, trying to lower your cost per click, B, trying to increase your conversions, C, wanting better tracking and ROI measurement, or just D, having a clearer strategy? Really curious where people's pain points are. Okay. Elizabeth says A. Thank you for being so active in the chat, Elizabeth. And Lisa Brunetti has also been active in the chat, along with many others. Courtney says D. Thanks for commenting, Courtney. Clear strategy, lower, and Elizabeth wants to lower her cost per click. Anybody else want to weigh in here? Okay, why don't we move on? We just have a little bit more time. So, as a way to thank you for hanging tight and thinking about marketing, because I could talk marketing all day, but most business owners really don't want to talk about
Oh, fuck.
we'd love to offer you a complimentary strategy session. This is not a sales pitch. This is really a one-on-one session where you get to pick our brains about what you can do with your Google Ads. And I'll try to have our paid ads expert on staff join the session. And it's 30 minutes of your time just to thank you for coming by. So don't forget to book your session, and you have my email and phone number if you want to talk about your Google Ads or marketing in general. But thank you so much for coming. Elena, do you have any final polls for us?
I have one last one, and I did just want to say everyone should definitely take advantage of this QR code that Julia did put out. It's pretty awesome that she is generously doing this, so definitely take advantage. My last poll is up, and I'm going to stop recording. And please